Welcome to the Your Wedding Unlimited podcast, a space where we break free from tradition, creating a wedding day totally authentic to you and your love story. I'm Abby, UK wedding planner and owner of Elegance Unlimited, here to help you plan a wedding day that feels uniquely yours. Join me for planning tips and advice, endless inspiration, and a pocket full of calm within the chaos that is wedding planning. Consider me a trusted friend, here to walk you through it all. From injecting fun splashes of personality into your day, to reinventing tradition completely, all whilst focused on building a day bespoke to your dreams and desires. I cannot wait to get started, so let's get planning. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Your Wedding Unlimited podcast. My name is Abby. I am a wedding planner. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. If you are coming back for more and you need more wedding tips, then we've got a good one for you today. So thank you so much for joining. I am back in my favorite place, sat here recording a podcast, talking all things weddings. And honestly, it's just my favorite place to be. I love it. I love it so much. And getting to plan the episodes and hear about the things that you guys want to hear and all these other things is just so much fun for me. So thank you so much for joining. Today is episode 18. 18 episodes, very exciting. We are talking about wedding tips today in general. You will have seen by the title of the podcast. Today, we are talking about 5 things that I wish every single couple planning their wedding knew. And this is just my personal opinion. This is my kind of insight and expertise from a wedding planner's perspective. But I thought this would be quite an interesting one for me to kind of pick up on some of the things that I see again and again and again, and hear again and again and again from, different couples, from people online, from people reaching out to me, from anyone I'm speaking to, suppliers, all these other things. You kind of pick up on lots of different things, when you're working in this industry. So I thought this would be quite an interesting one. So hopefully you guys enjoy it too. We're just going to go through 5 things today. Things that I feel like get overlooked too often or get ignored too often, or, people forget to remember in the wedding planning process. So yeah, a bit of an insightful, inspirational type episode for you today. We'll go with that. And this is my opinion from my wedding planning brain. Take it or leave it. I will not be offended. But yeah, should we get straight on into it? Let's do it. So my first reminder / tip for you today is that you don't owe anyone anything. Okay. And it seems simple. It might seem obvious, but the amount of times that I will be speaking to people or I'll hear people, just kind of talking through their wedding plans or the process, and they're saying, oh, well, mum's asked if we could do this and said it's really important to them. So, I think we're going to have to do that. I'm not too keen on it and I don't really know how to get out of it, but that's what we're going to have to do. Or, we have to do this because so-and-so's asked us to, or we have to do this because so-and-so said that, this is the way it's done, or this is the way we've always done it as a family. And that's just how it goes, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And this is just your little reminder that you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. On your wedding day, whilst you're planning your big day, whilst you're going through the motions, you're, pulling all these plans into place, you don't owe anyone anything. Apart from you and your partner as a couple, you owe yourselves the freedom to do whatever you want with your day, to make those plans, to make the decisions, to have things the way you want them done. And it's nice, to do things for other people. And I think it's important to state here that you can include the meaningful things throughout the process that you want to include, right? So if it's really important to you to repurpose your mum's or your grandma's wedding dress into something that you wear on the day, then do it. If it's really important to you to honor certain people on the day that can't be there, then do it. If it's really important to you to do the, certain speeches or have the mother and son dance or the father-daughter dance and things like that, if those are really important to you and they're also important to the other people involved on the other side of things, then that's great. Amazing. You don't really have any issues there, right? But if you are sat there thinking, oh my God, I really like we aren't even doing a first dance. We don't want to dance. And my dad is on at me. Like it's really important to him to do this father-daughter dance. And the thought of you doing it just makes you think, oh, I would rather the ground swallow me up whole. I can't think of anything worse. Like, please, nobody look at me. No, I don't want any of that. It's not for me. You don't have to do it. You don't owe them that, right? It's a nice to have. And it might be something, sometimes it's an unfortunate thing where as you've grown up or, throughout your life, people have been waiting for that, right? You're waiting for that chance that you'll get to do the dance with your child. You're waiting for that chance to be able to pass down the wedding dress. You're waiting for that opportunity to be able to do X, Y, Z. But ultimately, if people are disappointed by that because you're not interested in doing it, that's not your fault. And that shouldn't be on you, right? Because you don't owe them that. Just because they're expecting it or they want it doesn't mean that you owe them that pleasure. Okay. And it's tough, right? You have to kind of weigh things up. You have to kind of balance what's important to you and what's not. And sometimes you think, I'm actually not that fussed. Like it doesn't bother me at all. But I can see how much it means to this person or this person. And actually knowing that makes me really want to get it involved in our day, right? So that's fine. That makes sense. Okay. But it's those times when you're thinking, oh, this dress is just not my dream wedding dress. And I know it's been handed down for 2, 3 generations, but I don't want to wear it. It's not my wedding dress. And that's fine. At that point, it's just then about navigating that process and handling it in a really delicate way and making sure that you ultimately get the day that you want and not the day that someone else wants. Okay. Because my kind of key catchphrase with all of this kind of stuff is that well, they've had their day or they will get to have their day, but it's not today. This is your day. Okay. So if somebody is pushing something on you or pushing a tradition or pushing some kind of process or the way something looks on you and you're just not feeling it, it's really important to remember they've had their day. And if they didn't get their day the way they wanted it, again, that's not on you. That's not your problem. That's not your fault. Let's just kind of try and navigate that process a little bit delicately and get the wedding day that we want. But I find that I still speak to so many couples or hear so many couples saying, oh, well, we have to do this. And, our mum's asked her to do this or Auntie Jean's paying for this. So we have to do it this way, really. Maybe your uncle said, yeah, we're going to pay for the food. But then in turn, they're saying, well, we get to choose it. We get to have a heavy weighted say on what food you then have at your wedding. And that can kind of taint that process, right? Because then of course, they're handing you money. You feel like you owe them something. You feel like there is that expectation for you to then do as they say. And I always try to remind people that, if you are accepting money, if you're accepting gifts or you're accepting anything for your wedding, just make it really clear from the get-go what the expectations are from taking that gift, right? Because that's what it is essentially. And if the conditions of you accepting that gift means you have to compromise on the things that you want, or you have to not even compromise, just not get what you want entirely, then there is the question of, well, how important is it to us? Would we rather just not accept it, go for something smaller, go for something minimal, something less budget, and make it work in our own way? Because that's actually going to mean that we get what we want and we're not just catering to having a wedding day with our names plastered all over it, but actually it's got the influence and the inspiration and all of the things that our family wants and not what we want. So there's conversations to be had there, but I just wish that more people held on to this idea and remembered this throughout the process, because it makes me so sad. It makes me so sad and heartbroken. I work with a lot of couples and we work through this whole process from beginning to end. And I'll have conversations with them and I'll speak to them and I'll figure out the things, they'll be telling me about the things that are really important to them and they're so excited for this and they're so excited for that. And then there'll always be something that they're like, oh, not always, but a lot of the time there'll be something that comes up throughout the process that I can just tell. I'm like, they're not keen on that. How do I, it's not easy for me to then just be like, I don't think you should do that, because I'm getting the vibe that you're not so keen. But I really just try and encourage people to make choices from the heart, from them, and just to remember that this is their wedding day. The effort and the energy and the money they're putting into things is coming from them. And, you don't owe anyone anything. Weddings bring up emotions. I get it. Weddings make people do crazy things. I've seen and heard a lot of things, okay? You'll often get people say to you, oh, it would mean so much to me if you could do this. It would mean so much to me if this, you could have this at your wedding day. It would mean so much to me if, and I'm always like, hang on, whose wedding day is it? Even sometimes this is coming down to like the wedding party, like the bridesmaids and people that are coming. Or it would mean so much to me if I could bring this person, a stranger, a plus one to your wedding. And I'm like, no, no thanks. I actually don't know them. Don't want them at my wedding. Or it would mean so much to me if you could do this, if you could play this song as you walk down the aisle. It would mean so much to me if you could wear this. It would mean so much to me if, and I always come back to the like, okay, but let's listen to that phrase again. It would mean so much to me if. What about the people getting married? What about the couple here? What about what means so much to them? Because that's our priority, right? That's our focus. And I think it's okay to be selfish in the wedding planning process. We're not often encouraged to be selfish in life, and I think it's really important to be in lots of other ways, not even just in the wedding space. Prioritize your self-care, prioritize your family and your focus on your career, whatever's important to you. You're being selfish with it, right? And I think a wedding day is no different. Be selfish with it. It's your day. And you get to do this once, and you will wake up the next day after your wedding day. If you don't do things the way you want to do it, if there is something that you think, I might regret this, or I might not be 100% happy with this, but you push through with it anyway, you will wake up the day after your wedding and regret it immediately. It's always the case. There will be no like, oh, in 5 years, I might look back and think, oh, I wish I'd done this, wish I'd done that. If there is something that you feel that kind of strongly about that you don't want involved in your day, you're going to wake up the next day and think, oh my gosh, the day was so amazing. But excuse me, we don't want no buts on our wedding honeymoon bubble period. We don't want any of that after we've just gotten married. We want, it was amazing, full stop. Maybe start a new sentence with, and it was incredible, and this was amazing, and that. But we want no buts, no regrets, no, oh, I wish we'd done this differently, or I wish I'd just stuck to my guns and not done what someone else wanted to do. We're not doing any of that. Okay. So just remember that. I mean, I could go on a tangent for the entire episode just about this one point, honestly. That's why I put it at the beginning, so that I could just talk about it and then move on, because I feel so strongly and so passionately about that concept. It's your wedding day, it's yours, so let's do it the way you want it done. And it's nice to take into account and factor in the way other people feel. I'm not saying all guns blazing, steamroll ahead and just ignore what everyone else thinks. Who cares if they're going to have a nice time? Who cares if it makes people upset or unhappy? Yada yada. That's not what I'm saying. We can be sensitive and careful around these subjects while still putting our priorities first and putting the things that we want first on our wedding day. Okay. You will upset people for the craziest things when you're planning a wedding. People will get upset about the weirdest things. And you're like, really? This is bothering you? This upsets you? Like, is it that big of a deal? Usually it's not. But like I said, weddings bring up these kind of feelings in people, and it sends people a little bit crazy. I mean, if you've ever seen on like Reddit or Facebook groups or whatever it might be, where people are talking about like their bridal parties or like mother of the bride, mother of the groom, like all these dramatic stories, when you're like, oh my God, what sends people into this kind of frenzy? This is supposed to be an exciting, fun day, It will never cease to amaze me. And I always read them, I'll always get a good little bit of entertainment out of them. But then I'm always sat there at the end thinking, oh my God, that is just so sad. This is not the day for that. This is not the time or the process for the drama and, negativity and other people's opinions kind of clashing. Like, unless it's you and your partner clashing and you need to come to an agreement over the way you want to do things, that's different. But anyone else is just there to be happy for you, essentially. And if they're not, let's find a way to get them out of that process, right? Anyway, you don't owe anyone anything. First reminder of the episode that I've talked about for nearly 15 minutes. Let's move on. My second reminder or tip for you today is that it's normal not to enjoy all of the wedding planning process. I feel like we see on social media and in films or whatever, Instagram, or even just the things we're told from other people about weddings, right? There's this expectation that the wedding planning process is just like this dreamy, exciting, like honeymoon period type bubble that you just kind of float through, and it's supposed to be exciting and you're supposed to enjoy every single second of it, right? There's the other side of it where people are like, oh, it's very stressful and it's a lot. But I feel like even when it's stressful, even when you're feeling like it's too much, there's still an expectation that you're supposed to be enjoying yourself, because it's like, well, we are planning a wedding. This is so exciting. Like, you should be enjoying every second of it, right? Like, how dare you be stressed? How dare you be overwhelmed? You know, how dare you not enjoy this process that is such a privilege to be able to do, right? I think there's that kind of mindset, that kind of outlook. And I can understand like wanting to have the silver lining side of everything. It's like I'm very much that kind of person that's like, oh, this isn't ideal, but let's look at the positives. Let's bring a silver lining into things. Let's see how, we can spin this and put a spin on it and give it a nice positive feel and just switch things up, change the energy, right? Totally get that side of things. But I don't like this idea that we are not allowed to not enjoy things. Okay, we're not allowed to think, oh, I'm just really, this is such a boring task, or this is just not fun at all and I'm not having a good time. It's okay to say that you're not enjoying it, okay? It's okay to not enjoy all of the wedding planning process. And it's totally normal as well, right? Because this isn't something that we are all skilled in. It's not something, for the most part, most people I speak to have never planned a wedding before. Even if they have planning experience, it will be in like project management or, something to do with their job that they are like a planning in. Even if they're an events planner, it's not a wedding. And it's always so different when it's your own wedding. Okay. The script is flipped. Like, it's completely different. Even if people work in the industry or they've done it before, when it comes to their own wedding, they're like, oh my God, I'm now on the other side of things and having to plan this for myself, as a couple for our day. There's just a whole other element of stress and overwhelm that's attached to that. And it's a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say planning weddings isn't fun, but I'm also very biased because I do it as a job and I do love genuinely planning weddings. But that's not to say that there aren't sometimes parts of my job, parts of planning a wedding that I'm like, oh, this isn't my favorite bit. This is not my favorite part of the process. And that's normal. There's nothing wrong with saying that. So if you're planning your wedding, you and your partner are going through this process, you've got engaged, the engagement bubble has popped and you're suddenly thrust into this reality of, oh my gosh, let's plan a wedding. How exciting. It's perfectly okay to then hit a few obstacles on the way where you're thinking, ugh, I don't like this bit. Maybe it's the reading of the contracts and signing all of those. Maybe it's physically paying for things. Like, you have this big anxiety of, okay, we've saved the money and we've got the money here, but actually now spending it and making this big commitment is quite scary. Even, post pandemic, because we just never know what's going to happen in life, right? Maybe it's the reaching out to all your suppliers. Maybe that's just so overwhelming for you and you're thinking, I just want to know that I have people coming to my wedding. I'm happy to do the logistics and plan the day and, make stuff look pretty and all those things, but actually reaching out to people and getting the quotes and having to liaise with people and keep track of these details is stressful for me, not enjoying it, okay? Maybe it's the creative side of things where you're thinking, it's just not for me. I have no creative avenue. I have nothing in my brain that is going to say this looks good with this and this looks good with that, and that's stressful for me. Whatever it is in that process, whatever part you are not enjoying, it's normal, okay? Because you're an individual that has your own likes, your dislikes, your strengths, your weaknesses, whatever it is. It's totally normal. I just want people to remember that, okay? Because I feel like, and the reason this is a little kind of tip reminder that I've put in here today is because I think when people feel that way and they think, oh, I'm not enjoying this part of the process, I think it can become this real big thing that they hold on to, that they're then stressing themselves out because they feel like they're supposed to enjoy it, right? They're supposed to be soaking up every single second. And I say it a lot as a wedding planner, soak up every single second, of the wedding planning journey, try and enjoy every single moment, make the most of it. I say that a lot, okay? But that's not to say that if there are things you're not enjoying, that it's not okay. And I think my side point was that with this is to then work out how to navigate through the things that you aren't enjoying so that you do enjoy them. And so that it's less stressful, so that it's more enjoyable for you to go through that process. Don't sit in the sadness and uncomfortableness and stressfulness of it, right? There's always a way to work your way through or do things a bit differently so that you actually are like, oh, much better. I can actually cope with this process now. Okay. So one thing I would say about this is to, if you're finding things stressful, is that if there's things that you don't like, if there's, parts of the process where you're thinking this is just the worst, the first thing I would say is to don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple. Okay. Because the more things you add in, the more bits and processes and details and stuff you bring into something that you don't enjoy, the more hurdles you kind of give yourself to have to overcome, the more you're going to hate it. So if the like quote grabbing process, when you're kind of sourcing quotes and speaking to people and finding out information, if that's like the worst bit for you and you're thinking, oh, I just hate this and I'm struggling to keep track of all the details, keep it simple. Okay. Yes, you might not enjoy it, but your instinct is going to be to like, let's just throw everything out there for all the suppliers, get it done as quick as possible, and then I don't have to do it again, right? But that's going to bring you a lot more stress. That's going to bring you a lot more overwhelm, because suddenly you've got like 30 different suppliers sending you emails with information and all these decisions you need to make. That's going to be a lot, okay? So even though your instinct might be to get it over and done with as quick as possible, let's take a beat. Let's take a breath and say, actually, I'm not going to enjoy this process regardless. I'm not going to enjoy the process of reaching out to suppliers and trying to navigate through that process and gain information. So if I'm not going to enjoy it either way, how can I make it simple for me to work through? How can I make it so that it's not completely overwhelming and decision paralyzing? Okay. So I would be suggesting let's just do one at a time. Just send out 3, you're looking for a florist, send out 3 emails to 3 different people that you think might be interested in, get some quotes, make a decision on who you might want to go with, work through that process, and then on to the next. Okay. Let's not be throwing everything out into the water and just trying to grab it all again as it's all trying to float away and you've got things coming back at you and it's just too much, too much, too much. Take a breath. And on the other side of the coin, if you're actually thinking this is just so miserable and I just want to do the fun stuff, I want to do the things that I enjoy, I want to work through the parts of the planning process that make me excited, it's also totally okay to outsource the bits that you don't want to do. Hire someone to do the things that you don't want to do, like finding suppliers and outsourcing for quotes. And then all you have to do is make a decision. Yes, I want this one. No, I don't want this one. Find out some more information about this one, Make that process simple for you. And sometimes I feel like people think that it's cheating to get help from other people. It's not. If you get yourself a stylist because you don't want, the creative side of things and you can't picture what looks good together, get yourself a stylist that can bring you a day that looks amazing. It's not cheating. It's not failing to get someone from the industry that's an expert in what they do to help you through that process. Okay. The whole point of the process, and why I say all the time, is to make sure you enjoy every single second of it, is exactly that. Make sure you do enjoy every single second of it. And if there's something you're not enjoying, find a way to either, pass it on to your partner if it's something that they might be able to cope with more than you, and be like, please, please, can you just reach out to these people? The data tracking and all of that stuff, that's not my strength. Can you do that? Can you handle that? And then we can go through that process together and decide which ones we want to go with, which suppliers we're going to choose. Yeah. Think about the process. Think about what works for you. Remember, there's 2 of you here. I see a lot of people still working through the planning process alone, and their partner's just like there along for the ride to be like, yeah, I'm here. I'll be there on the day. And if that works for you, great. But it's important to remember that there's 2 of you getting married, right? It's a day for the 2 of you. So it's okay to say, I actually don't have enough time to do all of this. I'm getting overwhelmed. And maybe before you decide to outsource, you say, actually, are we balancing these tasks fairly between us? Are we balancing all of the stuff, the wedmin that we've got to work through? Is that shared equally between us? Is there something actually that I don't enjoy doing, but my partner might enjoy doing more? The logistics, maybe you want the timeline planned out for the day and all of those things. Maybe you can then just say, could you just do that and we'll go through it at the end? We'll just make sure that it's all working at the end, but could you take the lead on that? Make the process work for you, but don't sit in that uncomfortableness. Okay. It's totally normal to feel that way, like I've said, but try not to sit in it. Try to find a way that is going to make it better for you, more enjoyable, something that you actually enjoy sitting down to do, because otherwise you end up just avoiding those tasks. You'll just think, I don't want to do it. So I'm not going to, planning the timeline and the data, or even things like tracking your budget. If the money management and budgets and expenses is not your thing and you hate it and you're thinking, I don't even want to think about it, well, what's your natural response going to be? You're not going to think about it. You're just going to spend, and you're not going to be tracking what you're spending. And then suddenly you'll get to 6 months before the wedding and you'll think, oh my God, we have overspent by so much. Or we haven't tracked anything and we don't actually know how much we've spent. Or we've still got payments to make and we've run out of budget because we've just been spending on other things and not realized that we didn't have that money to dedicate, right? You don't want to get to that point where you're neglecting things that you don't want to do because you're like, this is not fun. I'm just not going to think about it. It's okay. And you will get later down the line and think, oh, I've made a mistake. I've messed up. So it's something to think about, right? I'm never going to be like, you have to do this. You have to go through the process this way. You know, if you're not doing this, don't neglect it. Then you have to make sure you go and hire someone to help you with it. Just do what feels right, okay? Work through that process. But my ultimate goal is for you to just feel calm and confident and in control, the 3 C's. If you're not feeling one of those things, we need to strip something back. We need to fill in the gaps and figure out why you aren't feeling those ways and how we can get you feeling that way, okay? The 3 C's is something I come back to a lot in my own work for myself, but also when I'm working with clients. It will be something that if I'm feeling like something's missing for them, it's okay, well, you're not giving me that calm energy. You're not feeling like you're feeling excited. Why not? How do we get there? Or something feels off. Talk to me about it. And it might come down to them just not feeling like they're in control. They feel like the process has gotten away from them a bit. Okay, so let's bring that back. And we can kind of feel confident in that process. We can feel like we have this under control. Our wedding day is coming together. All of the things that we want to be a part of that day are coming together. And it becomes a much more balanced and kind of harmonious process. So just keep bringing yourself back to that. Another little tangent. I love talking, honestly. And if you get me on like when I don't have as many points, like I literally just have like 5 points a day. Talk about these things, okay? Normally I'll have like, oh, don't forget to bring this up and don't forget to talk about this specific thing. And, you know, I might have a bit more guidance with my notes. If I let myself just go off on one, this episode could easily be 2 hours long. Truly. Yeah. So we're going to move on. Tip number 3. Tip number 3 is that less budget doesn't mean less. Say that again. Less budget does not mean less. It's not going to make your wedding less than. It's not going to make the process less than. It's not going to mean that your wedding day is anything less than perfect. It's about how we handle the budget. It's about how we utilize the budget that we do have to get the day that we want. I've done a couple of episodes about budgets now. I like talking about budgets. I like feeling in control of the money that we have to spend. I like that process of knowing exactly where this is going, exactly where that's going. Everything's been planned, everything's been thought out. I'm not going to get caught out at any point by something that I'm not expecting and have that sinking feeling in my stomach of how am I now going to find the money to pay for this? I'm not going to do that. Okay. I like planning budgets. I like talking about things like that. And a lot of the time when people are working with a very specific budget or a lower budget, there's this idea that they might not get the wedding that they want. They might not get everything they're hoping for. They might not have the wedding of their dreams because they're on a lower budget, because they're having to be, you know, cutting back in certain areas or whatever the case might be. That's just not true, firstly. And it's just the fact of it is less budget does not mean less. The way your wedding goes, the way your wedding looks, the way your wedding feels comes down to your wedding day as a whole. No one's going to come to your wedding day and be like, oh, well, I can tell they didn't spend enough on this wedding. I can tell they didn't do this. I can tell they didn't do that. That's not how it goes. People don't do that. And if they do, well, I wouldn't want them at my wedding anyway. Let's put it that way. But there is a budget for everyone out there. Whatever budget you're working to for your wedding day, whatever budget you set, whether it's £10,000 or £30,000 or £100,000, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can still have your dream day. You can still have a day that makes you feel incredible and is full of love and is full of memories and where you get to marry the love of your life. That's essentially that's why we're doing it, right? That's the main thing. That should be number one. There is a budget for everyone. So with this misconception that I've only got £10,000 to spend on my wedding. I've only got £15,000 to spend on my wedding, or whatever. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's a bit more than that. Whatever it is, you know, we spend so much of our time seeing influencers or celebrities spending money on weddings, or even if you start looking through for inspo, right? You're on Pinterest or you're on Instagram and you're scrolling through images and stuff for inspo, and you're thinking, well, I want that and I want that and I want that and I love that. Oh, let's do that. And very quickly you start to think, oh, can we do all of that? How do we make that happen? Actually, to have that many flowers or to have that kind of structure or the way this looks or to have that specific venue, it's going to cost us more than what we've got to spend on it. And then you're instantly thinking, oh, well, we can't have that. So it means the wedding day is not going to be great, or everything's just going to look too budget. It's going to look like we've not spent enough on it. Not true. Okay. And there are ways that you can make a low budget wedding look really expensive and really kind of high end. And there's simple ways to do that. Okay. Maybe we go into a whole episode about it on another day. But, ultimately, the things you want to do, you want to prioritize the things that you really want, that are really important to you, right? And you want to put money into those, not just little bits here and there and, we'll kind of half ass it and hope for the best. Put money into the things that are really important to you. If it's good food, put money into that. If it's flowers, if you want really big impact flowers, put more money into that. Cut back in other ways. If it's your stationery, maybe that's really important to you, or your styling, put money into that and cut back on other things. Okay. There are ways to keep costs lower and to still create this kind of magnificent, elegant, incredible looking day. Some of the ways you could do that, let me give you some inspo. Let me run through some ideas for you if you are wanting to use a lower budget and create a big impact day. Statement pieces. Okay, so if you have less budget to work with, typically, when we're talking about the styling of your day and the way things look and making things look cohesive, I always try to focus on a few statement pieces to draw the eye for the day. So we're not doing like, oh, let's put a couple of lanterns here and a few candles here and maybe some flowers here and maybe we'll get this little thing here and this little thing here, and you're kind of buying trinkets throughout the process and little things to put here and there. I don't recommend that if you want like the big statement piece. I'd be recommending, let's do the money we've got for styling, say, instead of doing 15 little pieces throughout the venue, little things for people to look at and go, oh my gosh, so lovely, I love that. Instead of doing that, let's put the money into 3 separate things. So we're going to do a big statement wall with flowers or draping or lighting or something that when you walk into the venue, you're like, wow, incredible, love that. Okay. And then maybe you're doing another piece that's like the entrance to your venue, say, or like a backdrop for a photo wall type thing, or whatever it might be. Maybe then your flowers come in as the second one. We're going to do a big draping wall. We're going to do high statement flowers, and we're going to put money into the food. Those are our like 3 like big statement things that like are the focus for the day. And then anything else, well, you won't really miss. An alternative to that is you pick a really big statement venue where you don't need to add much to it. So you put more into the venue. The venue does the talking, and you're just adding in a few flowers or a few decor pieces, a few things to kind of elevate the space without going into a completely blank space where you need to put in heaps of flowers or heaps of candles and decor and styling pieces and signage and all those other things. Okay. That's one way to do it. Other ways to keep costs lower and still have like a really great looking day. You could go for cheaper dresses. I know dressmakers and boutique people, please don't come for me. Wedding dresses are incredible. They look beautiful, but they can be very expensive, particularly if you're getting custom made dresses, right? Particularly if you're going for that kind of bespoke, made from scratch. It's upwards of £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, whatever. Fine. There are places where you can get something cheaper and they do still look amazing. You know, even if you're the kind of person that's thinking, I actually want to change into something in the evening anyway, so I want more than one dress, we'll go for something cheaper because you're in it for even less time. And it's not something that people are going to look at. If you're really kind of selective with where you go or the kind of style you choose and how you dress it up, no one's going to look at you and think, oh, well, she definitely spent less than £2,000 on that dress. No, no one's going to do that. No one's going to know. How often do you, particularly as women, go around and go to your friend or someone that you might be seeing, you go, oh my God, love your shoes, love your bag. And they, oh, thanks. It was, I don't know, M&S or got it in Tesco's or Primark. And you're like, no way. That looks so expensive, right? Think about the process like that. You don't have to spend loads of money on everything if you can find a way to do lower budget things that look really high class and expensive. And there's ways to do that. Okay. You could DIY your stationery if you're cutting back costs, and you can still do that now. There's so many places you can design your own, or maybe you're really crafty and you make your own, and you can make that feel really high end as well. The main thing, and I'll kind of pop this in here now, the main thing when you're wanting to create a day that feels and looks expensive, you need a cohesive look. You need something overarching running across the whole day where everything matches, everything feels like it's from the same theme, everything is really kind of flowing together. The textures are all complementing each other, the colors complement each other. You haven't just gone, yeah, we're going for pink, and you've just thrown 100 different shades of pink at the day, and it's like, oh, Nothing really quite matches here. You've really kind of thought through the process and thought, the fabrics need to match. We'll choose a couple of different textures. That, these are our 3-4 kind of shades of pink that we're not really flexing outside of, because we want everything to match. There's a way to do things to make things feel really cohesive. And ultimately, from my opinion, that elevates a day. That makes it look expensive. And you don't even need to have thousands of flowers or every single chair dressed up with sashes and thousands of candles and, whatever it might be, all the signage. Maybe you're just having nods to your color scheme and there's a few really simple bespoke pieces as part of your wedding day that make it feel like one, make it feel really expensive, like it's a really kind of well put together day. So there are ways to cut back on your budget. You could even not have a bridal party. That's one way that people are choosing to cut back these days. And they're saying, I'm not doing bridesmaids, we're not doing groomsmen. People can wear what they want. We're not, doing the dresses and all the things, because that's a big cost when you are paying for a bridal party. And it's a lovely thing to have, but there's still ways that you can have your nearest and dearest involved without having to have that cost of the bridesmaids, the groomsmen, the alterations for all their suits and dresses and, the shoes and all the things that you end up buying for it. You could just be saying, I really want you to be part of my bridal party. I'm not doing bridesmaids as such, but here's a recommended color palette if you wanted to dress in something that matches the day. And if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. Easy. But it's not you could say, we're going for green. I'd love it if you guys wore like a shade of green. That would be really nice. And then in the pictures, it would look really cute. And then they've chosen a dress that they want to wear. They've paid for it on a budget that suits them. Or they don't, and they choose to just wear something they already have or whatever works for them, and that's fine. But that's a way that you can cut back. That's quite a nice idea. Oh, there's just so many ways. Maybe I need to do a whole episode on that. Let me know. But yeah, ultimately, my point is less budget does not mean less. Tip number 4 is to check all of your details again and again and again. Okay, I feel like this often gets overlooked and it's tough, right? You have so many things coming at you from all different directions when you're planning a wedding, and there's a lot of people involved. It's not just a case of, here's my plans and I'm speaking to one other person about my plans. Let's just make sure they match, right? That's not the case. You have your venue, you will have your florist, you'll have your caterers if they're coming from outside the venue, you'll have your DJ or your band. You might have your coordinator or a planner, outside of what your venue's doing. You might have entertainers. So maybe you've got a live painter coming, or maybe I've seen people do like the children's areas. They'll do the creche, or they've got a big bouncy castle, or you've got, whatever you've got coming, anything, right? Live musicians, your celebrant. There's dozens of people involved in this process in this one day. They're all coming at some point in the day. And there's a lot of plans to keep on track of. It's easy to lose those. So I will see people being like, yeah, well, we spoke to this person like 6 months ago, so we'll just send them an email, like a couple of weeks before the wedding day, just check that all the details are the same. That's fine. That's great. That's one way of doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe it's the type A in me, the real heavy planner in me, that's like, oh, but I'd be checking at least once or twice more. Don't leave things until 2 weeks before to check in and be like, oh, we still good? Just checking. We still good for you to arrive at 4 p.m. Still good for you to arrive at 10 a.m. and set this up? Or is there anything you need? Check in before, do regular check-ins every few months and just confirm. The amount of times that I'll hear a couple say, oh yeah, we spoke to our DJ and they said they'll probably be there around 7. And I'm like, okay, anything else? Is there any more info? When did you last speak to them? Can we confirm that? Because this might, details that you're getting in from people might impact other parts of your day as well. So you need to be keeping track and you need to have it in a document, and you need to be checking in, a couple of months before, just checking in and confirming anything else I need to know, any changes I need to know, and then maybe check in the month before. And then if you've got a planner and it's me, I will be sending out the week before the kind of final, here's what we're thinking. And I'll usually always get something come back that says, oh, actually, it's not going to be 4, it's going to be 4:30. Or, oh, actually, I've just remembered, can you double check if there's a tablecloth for me to use for this? Or can you double check if there's going to be this? And can you check if there's going to be power to go to this? And what do I need to bring? There's always something last minute, okay? So you need to be checking details again and again and again, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure that everything is planned well, everything is planned in a way that's easy to, understand and can be worked through the day, and just double check again and again and again. I don't think you can ever check too many times. And I say that to my couples, even when they're working with me. I'm like, if you need to check in with me 2 or 3 times, just to, if you're worried that we've missed something, or can I just confirm that this is in place, and can I confirm that this is the correct details, please do it. I'm never going to be like, oh my God, so annoying. I'm going to be like, yeah, actually, thank you for flagging that, because 1 in 100 times there'll be something you've missed, From my perspective, I do just feel like there's a lot of times when I'll pick up, I might pick up plans if I'm doing just an on the day coordination towards the end, and I'll pick up plans and there'll be a few things that have been missed because they didn't check again. They didn't confirm that. They kind of just went, oh, it'll probably be that. Oh, I don't work on probablys. I need a guarantee. I need to know, no, this is how it's going to go. This is what's going to happen. This is how the process is going to be. Okay. Don't give me a probably. If it's a probably, then that's a to-do list where we need to get that sorted, and we need to kind of finalize those details in place. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. That's just my brain, and my thought process is always like, why haven't we checked twice at least before the big day? And my final tip for this episode, something for you to remember, is that the day goes fast, but everything takes longer than you think. The day, and everyone will tell you, you hear it so much in, the wedding space. People say, oh my gosh, the day will just fly by. It will. The day does fly by. Like, it will just go, and you'll be like, oh my God, that's our wedding day. Like, it's done. That went so quick, because you spend such a long time planning it, months and months and months, sometimes years, to then have it just been and gone in one day. It will feel like it just is gone, which is sad. It is sad. And it's very, very sad. But I think then there comes, like, people will then want to cram so much into their day. They're like, well, it's only one day and it's going to go so quick, so let's just do as much as we can. Let's put as much in there as possible. And that's great. I totally understand that. But you need to remember that everything takes longer than you think it's going to take. The amount of times people will be like, yeah, just give us 10 minutes to do this. And I'm like, double it. Absolutely not. I don't think that, there's any way you're going to get that done in 10 minutes. People will say, I'm just going to pop off for photos for 10 minutes. And I'll be like, okay, I'll see you in 20. Because by the time you've walked over there and you're faffing and you're doing, oh, get ready for this. Oh, actually, let's just move and do this. And maybe you're on the way back and you see another photo opportunity. So you're like, oh, go and stand there. It's never just 10 minutes. Okay. So when we're putting in things to the timeline, when we're planning those things, you need buffer time. You need buffer time. I did a whole episode talking about wedding timelines and how to navigate that process, how to plan the day out. And one of the things I talked about was buffer time. Always have a bit of buffer time. If it's 5 minutes, if it's 10 minutes, if it's, we talked about in that episode, adding on like an extra 20, 30 minutes to your wedding breakfast, not your wedding breakfast, your drinks reception. So that then as you're refining the timeline and maybe adding things in and adjusting, if you need to cut things down, you take it from the drinks reception. It's okay to have 2 hours for a drinks reception, and you could bring it down to an hour and a half, and it's not going to be much of a deal breaker. But if you've got that extra half an hour that you can say, oh, let's steal 10 minutes from there. Let's take 15 minutes from there and add it in somewhere else so we can do this, or give ourselves some extra buffer time. That's going to be a huge help to you. Okay. So it's important to remember whilst you're going through the process that yes, the day's going to go quickly. Yes, everything's going to fly by at a million miles an hour. And if you're wanting to put as much in the day as you possibly can, just make sure it's planned properly. Make sure it's planned well. Make sure you've thought those things through and you've worked through the day. Walk yourself through the day. Sit down of an evening when you've got as many details as you could possibly get from all your suppliers, and you're mapping out the day. This person's arriving at this time. We're going to be doing this at this time. What's going to be happening then? If we want this to happen at 10 a.m., what time do we need to start to make sure it's in place, ready for that time? Think about how the day's going to go, and, think about the details. It's those things that if you forget could cause you issues on the day. Not deal breakers, nothing that's going to ruin your day, but you'll be like, oh, hang on, we can't start that yet. Even though we wanted to do it at 10, we actually can't because we're not quite ready, because we didn't plan efficiently enough before to make sure it was done quite in time, if that makes sense. So buffer time is your best friend. And that's not to say you need to be like ridiculous with it and say, oh, I think this might take 20 minutes, so let's give ourselves an hour just in case. Like, that's not quite the case. And it's not always the case of saying, oh, well, we think it might take this much time, so let's double it. Not the case at all. But sometimes just giving yourself an extra 5 minutes, or pushing things forward a little bit just to make sure, okay, we think it's going to take 2 hours to set everything up in the morning, But actually, let's give ourselves another hour for that, if in case we need it. If we have the time and the timeline to do that, if we have the space to be able to do that. And then what it means is if we're done an hour early, great, we can move on to something else. We've got buffer time, okay? Even if you're just saying, okay, well, let's start half an hour early. Or if we're setting things up, can we get in the day before and do it? And then we don't have to worry about it on the day it's done, right? Then we can just enjoy more of the day. Things like that, work through your process, work through your timeline. Think about spaces where you might need a bit of extra time, where you might need a bit of extra assistance, where actually you're thinking, oh, we haven't allowed any time to walk from this part of the venue to the other. And we've got, 150 people that we need to try and herd like sheep from one space to another. Let's add 10 minutes in there. Those little parts of the process are going to make such a huge difference to, the way that your wedding day goes. So yeah, I've kind of whizzed through those last 2 points because I'm very aware that I've been talking for a long time. But yeah, those are the 5 things. I like doing episodes like this. I've enjoyed this. And by all means, these are not the only tips I would suggest. But these are just some things that I do. Like I said at the start, I do wish that more couples remembered throughout the process. And sometimes they do need reminding. Sometimes I'm the one to be reminding them of it. So if you are planning a wedding alone and you don't have a wedding planner, this is me as a wedding planner reminding you that these things are important and that, just remember these things as you're going throughout the process. If you're already on it, if you're already thinking about all these things, then yeah, you're winning. You don't need me. You've got it all under control. But yeah, I hope this has been helpful. I want to know if this has been helpful. Has this got you thinking about, parts of your wedding planning process? Has this kind of changed your perspective on some things? And yeah, do you need any more help? Is there anything else you want to know? Leave it in the comments. If you're on Spotify, you can leave comments, or on YouTube, and you can come and join the Facebook group. I'll always put a post in there each week about what we've been talking about. And if anybody wants to talk about things or ask questions, there's a space for you to do that. But I like these kind of episodes. So I will definitely pull together some more. And if there's specific things you want me to talk about, if you just want to drop me a message that says, please do an episode on this, please do. It's always nice to hear that. And it's helpful for me to know what you guys want to hear as well. So yes, I hope that you've enjoyed this one. Thank you so, so much for listening. I will speak to you next week for another episode. In the meantime, you know where to find me if you need anything. Everything is in the show notes. And otherwise, I will speak to you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Your Wedding Unlimited podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired and excited to create your dream wedding day and those lasting memories. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. I'll be back next Wednesday with more tips, advice, and inspiration. In the meantime, don't be a stranger. Come and find me on Instagram and TikTok at Your Wedding Unlimited, where I share even more wedding ideas and behind-the-scenes insights. You can also watch these episodes on YouTube at Your Wedding Unlimited. And if you're looking for even more support, come and join my private Facebook group, Your Wedding Unlimited. It's an amazing community of fun and authentic engaged couples, packed with extra tips, advice, and insights to guide you along your journey. If you have any questions or need more info, you can DM me or send me an email at yourweddingunlimitedpodcast@gmail.com. All links and details will be in the show notes. Until next time, happy planning!